Hello, I am Sandhya Rohal, Assistant Professor at Department of Laws, BPS Women University, Sonipat. I welcome you to today's lecture on Chapter 26, Parliament and State Legislature. Here, firstly, I'll give you the brief outline of my lecture. In this lecture, I will recall here that the Parliament of India consists of President and the two houses. I will describe here the composition of Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, which are the two houses of the Parliament. Then I will explain the functions of Indian Parliament with the procedure of lawmaking in Indian Parliament, and in the end I will compare the functions and powers of both the houses and show that the Lok Sabha is more powerful. And my dear student, on the completion of my lecture, you will able to state that who can vote to elect the member of Rajya Sabha. Secondly, what is the maximum permissible membership of the Lok Sabha? And next is for which section of the society seats are reserved in the Lok Sabha. Also, that which bill cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. When is the joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament held? Again, I will tell you, you will able to state that what constitutes quorum in either house of Parliament. And the most important question, who can dissolve the Lok Sabha and who can elect the Speaker of Lok Sabha? And again, very interesting question, what is a private member's bill? That is a different term. So, I will start my lecture with the term Parliament, and we can say our Parliament. Again students, the Constitution of India provides for a bicameral Parliament. Bicameral Parliament means the Parliament where there are two houses, but our Parliament consists of President and two houses. You know students that Parliament consists of President, but President here is not a member of any house, and these two houses, one is Council of State, which is famously known as Rajya Sabha in India, and the another house, House of People, again famously known as Lok Sabha. Now, if we come to the Indian parliamentary system, then here I would like to tell you that the government of India has two levels, or we can say it is bifurcated into two levels. One is at the union level, another is at the state level. Firstly, I will explain you government at union level. Now the question again, who is the executive head of the union and what is the functions of that executive head? The answer of this question is the executive power of the union is vested in the president, and he exercises his powers and functions with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. And you know, these Council of Ministers are headed by the Prime Minister. Now again, I would like to point out one important factor, and you can say interesting factor, that naturally President has a power that he will function his all powers with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister, but he has to act according to the opinion of Election Commission, according to Article 103. So, we can conclude here that Article 103 is the exception of the rule where the president is the executive head, and here this president will act according to the opinion of the election commission and not of the advice of the council of ministers. Now, I will come to the second stage, second level of the government, that is government at the state level. Here the same is the position of the government of the state, the same as of the president at the union level. Here also the constitutional head is known as governor, who is required to act as constitutional head and act according to the advice of his ministers, and these ministers are headed by the chief minister. Now, at this level also there is one exception, that the governor can also act in his own discretion in few situations. He is not bound always with the advice of the ministers and the chief ministers. So, students, after discussing the Indian parliamentary system, I would like to explain the composition of the union parliament and the state legislature. As we know that the bicameral system of the union parliament has two houses, Council of States, Rajya Sabha, and Lok Sabha, which is known as House of People. In the Council of States, firstly, the president will nominate maximum 12 members at the Rajya Sabha, which has their own specialization. These members have their own specialization. Then maximum 238 members who are the representative of the states and union territories in the Council of State or Rajya Sabha. So, we can say the maximum number of the member in the Council of State is 250, 238 plus 12, 250, that is by the president and by the states and UTs. So, the next composition of the House of People and Lok Sabha is maximum 530 members who are chosen by direct election from the territorial constituencies in the state, and again the maximum 20 members should be represent the UTs, means the number of the UT representatives should be maximum 21, and here again one exception is given in the composition of the House of People or Lok Sabha, that is that if the president may wish or may think fit, he has power given under Article 331 that he can appoint 2 Anglo-Indians as a member of the Lok Sabha. Now, I will come to the composition, constitutional composition of the state legislature house or houses. Student, firstly I will explain you the state legislature house or houses. As we know that the state legislature houses means that we are talking about bicameral system, and in India that is the discretion of the state that they will decide that how many houses they want in their state, 1 house or 2 house. Simple, one is the legislative assembly and another is legislative council, and you know that only in 6 states in India has 2 houses, otherwise every state has a 1 house, that is legislative assembly. So, to discuss the constitutional composition of the state legislative assemblies and council, I would like to highlight the Article 170 of the Indian Constitution, which is subject to the provision of Article 333. Here, each state shall consist of maximum 500 members and minimum 60 members in its house. Secondly, if we will discuss the legislative council, which is the, you can say, optional one, here the total member in the legislative council of a state shall not exceed 1/3 of the total member in the legislative assembly of the state. And you know that the minimum number of the member in the legislative council should be 40. Means this is the one criteria that each and every legislative council should have minimum 40 members for its composition. So, after the composition of the both houses at the union, at the state level, I will come to the duration of the houses of parliament and state legislature. Again, if we start from the Rajya Sabha, then there is no question of discussion about the duration. This house is a permanent house and it is not subject to dissolution. And the Lok Sabha, which is continuous for the 5 years, we can say the duration of the Lok Sabha is 5 years from the date on which it holds its first meeting after being constituted. Now, I will come to the legislative assembly of every state. Here again, unless sooner it is dissolved, it shall continue for 5 years from the date appointed for its first meeting. So, in short, we can say that the duration of the houses of parliament and state legislature is at their level is the same one, and if we will discuss the legislative council duration, then again that is the permanent one and it is not subject to dissolution. Then we will come to the qualification and disqualifications for the member of Indian Parliament and state legislature houses. Firstly, if we will discuss the qualification of a member, then every member of the parliament and state legislature should be a citizen of India. And if we will discuss specifically about the Rajya Sabha, then that member should be more than 30 years in age, and if we will discuss the Lok Sabha, then he should be or she should be more than 25 years in the age. After that, we will discuss that if there is any other qualification as given by the parliament, that should also a qualification of the member. Next is that member should taken an oath before the person authorized by the election commission as or in according to 3rd schedule. Now, I will come to the disqualifications of these members. Firstly, if these member or any of the member is hold any of the office of profit, it is come under the government of India or the government of any state, then that member will be disqualified. Student, here I would like to tell you that office of profit is nowhere defined in the Constitution of India, but it is used as in a negative form under Article 102, where they are saying that the member should not hold office of profit. So, we can say that a member cannot take benefit of office of profit under any of the government, either at state level or union level. Second disqualification of the member of the Union Parliament and state legislature is that he should not be unsound mind. and if he is unsound mind, that is person will be disqualified. Again, if he is insolvent, next if he is not a citizen of India, and the last one, if he is so disqualified by or under any law made by Parliament. So, after these disqualifications, I will come to the officers of Parliament and state legislature. The first one, the first officer of the Parliament is, will discuss under the head of Rajya Sabha. The Vice President of India is the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. He presides over the meetings of Rajya Sabha. Then the question arises, what if there is absence of the Vice President or ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha? Then in that situation, in the absence of him, the deputy speaker, who is elected by its member from amongst themselves, presided over the meeting of the Rajya Sabha. Here the deputy chairman can be removed by a majority of all the then member of Rajya Sabha. Now the question arises, the Vice President can only be removed from his office by a resolution passed by a majority of all the then member of the Rajya Sabha and agreed to by the Lok Sabha. Here I am explaining the removal procedure of the Vice President, and as the Vice President is an ex officio chairman, again I am emphasizing he is not a member of the Rajya Sabha and he is normally not entitled to vote. He or she can only vote in case of tie. So, after discussing the officer of the Rajya Sabha, I will come to the officers of the Lok Sabha, which is also known as House of People. Here the officers named as Speaker and Deputy Speaker. Firstly, the presiding officer of Lok Sabha is known as Speaker. The members of the House elect him, and that Speaker remain the Speaker even after Lok Sabha is dissolved till the next House elect a new Speaker in his place. In case there is an absence of the Speaker, then again, as in the case of you can say chairman and deputy chairman, here also deputy speaker who is elected by the House presided over the meeting, and both speaker as well as deputy speaker can be removed from his office by a resolution of Lok Sabha passed by majority of all the then members present in the House. So, after discussing the officers of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, I would like to highlight some of the powers and functions of the Speaker. Firstly, you know that every bill, every bill, report, motions and resolutions are introduced with the permission of the Honorable Speaker. Secondly, in case of joint sitting of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the Speaker presiding over the meeting, and if in the decision of the Speaker, it is the decision of the Speaker in all the parliamentary matter which is the final one, and if the Speaker rules on the point of order raised by the member, then the Speaker decision is final. The next power of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is that he or she is the custodian of rights and privileges of the member. And the next, and we can say the very important power of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is that he or she puts the motion or bill to vote, and if they are not participate in the voting, they mean they mean Speaker not participate in the voting, but where there is a tie, then tie here means the equal number of votes on both sides, then the speaker can use his casting structure of government vote, and in that case that is expected to cast his or her vote in a manner so that that is impartial and independence is retained. So, speaker can use his structure of casting vote in the tie system at the situation of tie, and it is again the moral and the constitutional duty of the speaker that he should vote as impartial and independent. So, after that I will explain the role of governor to the state legislature house. Here the governor, as from time to time, summon the house or each house of the legislature of the state to meet at such time and place as he think fit. After that, we will come to the important and very, you can say, the most powerful power or function of the governor, that is to dissolve the legislative assembly. Governor has a power to dissolve the legislative assembly of the state. After this, I will like to explain Article 176. Under this, the governor has a power to address special address at the commencement of the first session after each general election to the legislative assembly, and at the commencement of the first session of each year. Here, my dear student, after discussing the officers, their qualification, disqualifications, powers, functions, I would like to tell you that in Indian parliamentary system, there is a close relation between the legislature and executive. Firstly, that legislature is the one who legislates the law, right? And there is a one rule that every member of the parliament has a right to introduce an ordinary bill, and from this point of view, I conclude that there is two types of bill. One is government bill and another is private members bill. If I will explain you the government bill, then the bill which is introduced and moved by the minister is known as government bill, and the another bill which is named as private members bill, it means the bill has been passed by, or sorry, this bill has been moved by the member of parliament but not a minister in the government. And you know that the government bill consume most of the time of the parliament. Generally, students, we are classified the bills into two forms, that is ordinary bill and money bill. Ordinary bill, the bill which is not money bill is ordinary bill, and money bill is explained under the Indian Constitution, defined under the Article 1010 and 9 of the Indian Constitution. But in my lecture, I would like to explain the ordinary bill, which is naturally, we can say, different to the money bill, and by what procedure this bill will be passed. So, I will divide it into the several stages. The first stage of the ordinary bill is to the introduction of the bill. Here in the introduction of the bill, we will discuss the first reading of the bill, and the bill start with the introduction. Here, as I am emphasized before, the minister wanting to introduce a bill, after he will informing to the presiding officer, the presiding officer puts the bill into the question of introduction to the house. Here, after putting the bill into the question, there will be a approval by the normal voice vote of the member present, and after that the presiding officer called the minister to introduce the bill. After this first stage, where the bill is introduced by the minister and it is approved by the member present there by the simple vote, voice vote, the second stage is second reading. Here students, I will emphasize that this reading is the general discussion of the house about the bill, and it has again given the 4 options to the house. 1. It may straight away take the bill into detail, clause by clause, and consider that. Secondly, it refer to a select committee of the house. Thirdly, it circulates the bill, it has circulated the bill among the people who are elicit public opinion. And the last one, it can also refer to the joint committee of the both the houses. In short, that the bill is read by the either the members, by the selected committee, by the joint committee of the houses, or by any other elicit public opinion people. And after reading, if the bill is referred to a select committee or the joint committee or the concerned committee, the bill is examined very minutely, and after the examination they prepare a report, and that report will be submitted to the house. This second reading, or we can say the second stage of the bill, is basically about the report which is submitted to the house. Now, in the third reading, we can say this third stage will come only after the completion of the first reading, and here the minister may move that the bill be passed. Once the bill is passed, at this stage normally no discussion is taken place, and the members may oppose or support the adoption of the bill by a simple majority of the members who present and voting. So, in short, we can say after passing through the 3 stages or 3 reading of the bill is passed by one house. Now, the question arises of the other house. Again, if the bill come to the second house or the other house, we can say, then there can be a 3 situation or 3 consequences arises. 1, bill come to this other house and it may pass it. This other house may pass it, and after passing the other house, it may send to the, it is not only may, it should send to the president for his assent. The next is the second consequence, it is it may pass the bill, but with few amendments, and if the amendments are suggested by the other house, then the bill will be sent back to the first house, and in such a case the first house will consider the amendment, and if it accept the amendment, then the bill will be sent to the president for his assent. And in case there is a first house refuse to accept the amendment, then it means there is a situation of deadlock. Now, the third situation, where the bill is not recommended any amendment, it may reject by the second house, and there is a simple situation of a deadlock. So, here I will explain to remove the deadlock between the 2 houses. The president has a power with his discretion that he may call for a joint sitting of the 2 houses, and such joint sittings are very rare in India. And you know student, till now only 3 times such meetings have taken place, and they were convened on the occasion of the passage of 1. Dowry Prohibition Bill 1959, 2. Banking Service Commission Repeal Bill 1978, and the last one, Prevention of Terrorism Bill 2002. So, this is all about the ordinary bill. Now, I will come to the money bill. Money bill, which is defined under Article 110 of the Constitution, and the procedure for passing money bill is different to the ordinary bill, and a money bill shall not be introduced in the Council of State, or we can say Rajya Sabha. Secondly, after a money bill has been passed by the House of People, it shall be transmitted to the Council of States for its recommendation. The third stage is Council of States shall within a period of 14 days from the date of its receipt of the bill return the bill to the House of People with its recommendation. And the last stage is, if the House of People accept any of the recommendations of the Council of State, the money bill shall be deemed to have been passed by both the houses. So, after passing the money bill, that is the, we can say, we can conclude that the Lok Sabha has more powers given under the Constitution than the Rajya Sabha in case of money bill. I will like to explain the Indian parliamentary privileges. Firstly, as we know that the privileges are the one thing just given additional to the members, and Article 105 of the Indian Constitution deals with the privileges given to the Union Parliament and their members and the committees. And you know that Article 194 is the exact reproduction of Article 105, deals with the state legislature and their members. Now, I would like to define the Article 105, which is given the parliamentary privileges as follow. Article 105 clause 1, it is giving the freedom of speech in parliament. Article 105 clause 2, which is given the freedom of publication of proceeding, and the clause 3 of the Article 105 given power, privileges and immunities shall be those of the House of Commons of the United Kingdom at the commencement of the Constitution until they were defined by an Act of Parliament. So, after discussing the parliamentary privileges, I would like to discuss the relation between the two houses, which can be best studied from three angles. And these angles are, we can categorize like the angle 1, which is in several areas, both the houses enjoy the equal powers. The examples are, the one is adoption of bill other than money bill. The another one is approval of proclamation of emergency. The third example is moving of adjournment and other types of motions. The angle 2 about the relation is, in certain areas, Rajya Sabha has been vested with executive power. It does not share these powers with the Lok Sabha. For example, it can declare a subject in state as a matter of national importance and facilitate a central legislation. After the second angle, I would emphasize on the angle 3, because in this beginning of my lecture, I emphasized that the Lok Sabha has more power than the Rajya Sabha, and this angle 3 will clear that point of view of mine. There are certain powers and function in which Lok Sabha is superior to the Rajya Sabha. For example, introduction and adoption of the money bill and removal of a cabinet by passing no confidence motion is the very relevant example here. After this, students, if I will sum up the whole discussion, and this discussion is basically about the Union Parliament and the state legislature, their functions, their power, their relation. I would like to say, as between the two houses, the Lok Sabha has supremacy in financial matter. As we know, it is also the house to which the Council of Ministers drawn from both houses is collectively responsible. And we can say that Rajya Sabha has a special role in enabling Parliament to legislate on state subject if it is a necessary national interest. It has a similar power in regard to the creation of an all India service common to the union and the state. In other respect, the constitution proceeds on the theory of equality of status of the two houses. So, it is not only that I want to prove that Lok Sabha is more powerful. Of course, our Indian constitution is based upon the theory of equality of status of the both the houses. Only I am highlighting those points where the Lok Sabha has more power than the Rajya Sabha, and the state legislature has a relation with the union parliament, and our legislation procedure where money bill has a different procedure than the ordinary bill. So, thank you.